Look at these things.
Keep your hands in the water.
Oh my God.
That's all over here.
What is happening?
Come on.
It's everywhere.
Clean up.
There.
When you first see it, it's just overwhelming.
The gruesome deaths were recorded on numerous cameras.
From the skies over Phoenix, Chopper 15 followed the low-speed police chase. It was when it appeared to come to a stop that the mid-air collision played out before viewers.
Helicopters collide while on air. Phoenix, 2007. It's hard to imagine what happens when a live taping goes wrong. People on the scene seem to have things mostly under control. What happens when they're not? In 2007, a moment just like that came on TV, happening suddenly and without warning that even the news crew on the ground couldn't react.
From the skies over Phoenix, Chopper 15 followed the low-speed police chase. It was when it appeared to come to a stop that the mid-air collision played out before viewers.
All right, they're closing in. Looks like they've... We're going to pull out. We don't know what has just happened right there.
Two pilots and newscasters, along with their crew, suddenly collided in midair. Unfortunately, they had been coordinating for safety purposes, but the nature of their work meant it wasn't a simple shot. They had to remain dynamic, chasing the suspect to maintain a steady view for their cameramen.
Turn back around and get away from this. We do have 2 helicopters down during this crash. We're not sure which helicopters they were.
If it was a house fire or a robbery, perhaps things should have been different. Suddenly, the two pilots crashed into one another, sending both crafts down at once into the ground below. Even 16 years later, the footage shocks many, leaving people questioning how this could have happened.
Oh my God. It's Channel 3. That's...
Jack Ruby shoots Lee Harvey Oswald on camera. Old footage can sometimes feel like a whole other world.
It's 1963. We're originating our program in Washington, where funeral and burial services for John Fitzgerald Kennedy take place today.
After the 1963 assassination of American President John F. Kennedy, which had been a massive event that many people saw, most people thought that that's as bad as it could get. But briefly after, Jack Ruby proved them all wrong. The then nightclub owner had been long since involved in criminal activity linked to organized crime and had ties to illegal gambling, narcotics, and prostitution. All of this, and it was the shooting of Oswald that took him out.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's the man with a gun. It's absolute panic. Absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. The detectives have their guns drawn. Oswald has been shot. There is no question about it. Oswald has been shot.
Ruby didn't miss. The bullet entered in the left side, damaging his stomach, spleen, vena cava, aorta, kidney, liver, and diaphragm, all before stopping on the right side. He claims to have been distraught by the killing of President Kennedy and wanted to save Mrs. Kennedy from having to come back to Dallas for the trial. It was deemed a spur-of-the-moment decision, and that Ruby acted of his own accord. Not everyone agrees, but the insanity plea of Ruby's defense eventually did save him from the death penalty. It's just crazy that both were so clearly documented. Kennedy and then his assassinator's killing. Retired veteran steals tank and goes on rampage, 1995. There's a good reason why military-grade equipment is not meant for average people. These are the kinds of things that can cause immense damage in the wrong hands, and even in the right hands, things can get a bit messy. When Sean Timothy Nelson stole a military tank in 1995, no one could have known just how bad things could have gotten, and yet they just seemed to get worse.
The tank chase, as it's been called, that's probably one of the, if not the most dramatic events that have ever occurred that involved the San Diego Police Department.
San Diego, California tank chase is likely one of the most dramatic and dangerous events that's happened with the SDPD. Local man Sean Nelson was an Army veteran who had suffered greatly in life. Financially, professionally, and interpersonally, he wasn't doing well, largely due to his substance abuse. He was able to steal a 57.3-ton tank from the local California Army National Guard Armory and drive it around for 6 miles before being caught by police. He crushed cars, utilities, and infrastructure as it came into his warpath, before ultimately crashing live on TV.
center divide. He's stuck. There's no way he's getting off that. Be careful if he gets loose there.
The SDPD forced it open and used lethal force to end the rampage. If he'd gotten much further, how much more damage could he have done? While Nelson's life ended after this infamous event, it wasn't before truly making an impact on everyone watching. It just goes to show, everyone struggles in life, no matter how put together they might seem. But some make the average struggles seem not so bad. North Hollywood bank robber shootout with LAPD, 1997. Our next event took place not too far from the last. In North Hollywood, a shootout that would change lives.
Southern California was glued to the television set as we watched the infamous North Hollywood bank shootout play out on live TV.
As a day that went down as one of the most violent in Los Angeles history, the North Hollywood shootout was also known as the Battle of North Hollywood. The confrontation between two heavily armed and armored bank robbers in the LAPD would mark history and would be recorded and aired on television. This wasn't the robbers' first rodeo. Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Manasarianu had hit multiple other locations using the same methods. They pushed past the bulletproof security stores, took control of the banks, and fired off illegally modified weapons made to enable automatic fire. On February 28th at about 9:16 a.m., the two men entered and robbed the North Branch of Bank of America. They were quickly confronted by LAPD, which is when things dissolved into chaos. All of the footage was caught from above, as news teams followed the two gunmen out into the residential streets as they split up. Phillips continued on foot while Emil took the getaway car. The two men, heavily armed and even more heavily armored, opened fire on the officers, continuing out into the adjacent street. Phillips in particular had an issue with his AK-47 but continued with a handgun, holding his ground until an officer got him in the torso.
Phillips, as he has a malfunction with his AK-47, he drops it. He continues to walk down Archwood, takes out a Beretta 9mm and handgun, starts shooting at anything that moves. And he gets shot in the hand. He drops it, picks it up, puts the gun under his chin, and presses the trigger. As he goes down, an unknown uniformed patrol officer fires and hits him in the upper torso, through the side, misses the vest, and severs his hand.
But the robber had taken the truck, and it took 28 shots to incapacitate Emil until he was no longer a threat.
We then proceed to shoot under our car at him, and we hit him 28 times, until he stops being a threat and he stops shooting at us. The three of us take the suspect into custody, and I take the ski mask off of Emil Mascherano. He looks up at me and his comment was, "Why don't you just put a round through my head?"
Nearly 2,000 rounds were estimated to have been fired off collectively between the robbers and responding officers. The thing is, this changed the landscape of police work across the country. This specific shootout, viewed by millions on the news, contributed to arming officers in Los Angeles and nationwide with semi-auto rifles, as the ineffectiveness of standard-issue small-caliber police pistols exposed a massive weakness in the country's police force. They made history in a way they couldn't have imagined, and probably in ways they hadn't meant to. Poker tournament heist on tape. Things can go from 0 to 100 very quickly, whether you realize it or not. When criminals see an end, they'll exploit it to their best ability, and this high-stakes heist was caught on camera in a place you probably wouldn't expect it. An annual poker tournament was being held in Berlin, and as players geared up to bluff their way into the champion spot, shouting erupts.
Okay, well maybe next time.
Maybe.
Are you going to play in Snowfest?
No.
San Remo?
Probably in San Remo.
Oh, there you go then. You can take it down in San Remo.
I like the
You can see one player look over his shoulder as the crowd runs, and quickly everyone follows. As the cable cuts off, that's where the feed ended, and the poker table was left empty. However, behind the scenes, the group was losing their cool, just barely skirting past security and showing signs of high stress and tension in their ranks. There was a brief scuffle between the team and security, but the guard valued his life higher than that of his job, and when the team came back to rescue the one captive member, he was released. They escaped with roughly $300,000 without a trace, and their identities hidden. Imagine watching your much-anticipated poker tournament only for things to turn into a high-stakes action shoot. It's something pulled out of an Ocean's film, or something of the likes. But after a brief commercial break, everything was back to normal. Fatal Rio bus hostage situation unfolds on TV. Sporting events are full of high-stress situations, and people act wildly out of character when under stress. This took place just a month before the start of the 2014 World Cup in Rio, a bustling area of activity even without the impending sporting event.
A dramatic 4-hour standoff today in Rio de Janeiro, where an armed man hijacked a bus, taking 37 people hostage.
A man boarded a bus, attempting to rob everyone inside. Things quickly turned sour for the would-be robber as he was quickly intercepted by police. Traffic was shut down as the man held 37 people on board. Reports claimed the man made no real demands and simply kept people holed up in the bus without end. The footage doesn't show the inside of the bus, only the surrounding chaos as people attempted to figure out how to deal with this high-stakes situation. He was threatening to set the bus on fire with the nearly 40 people inside.
Some hostages who were released said he poured petrol out and threatened to set the bus alight.
Officers took the man out with a police sniper after unsuccessfully trying to reason with him.
A hostage situation on board a bus in Brazil has ended with the alleged assailant shot dead by a police sniper.
Not a single hostage was harmed, thankfully, but those few hours of footage and news coverage had to be harrowing to watch live. News anchor mistakenly eats cat vomit on live TV. Has anyone ever told you don't eat things off the floor? 5-second rules ignored for a moment. You don't know how long something's been there unless you dropped it yourself, and even then, how clean is the floor? This news anchor quickly realized just how bad of an idea it can be while in the worst place possible, surrounded by his colleagues and being watched by everyone at home.
You're going downhill fast, pal. Look at this.
It's also...
Scott Haney, the weatherman for Hartford's CBS affiliate, scoops up something off the floor that he thought was a handful of food crumbs, possibly grape nuts, popping them right into his mouth.
You leave grape nuts all over here. What is happening? Come on.
It's everywhere.
Clean up.
There.
Oh.
His coworkers are obviously grossed out as they realize he's just gone and eaten garbage off the floor.
I can't believe you just ate that.
You can't?
I believe it.
They're a little soggy.
They are not, however, surprised. It seems relatively in character.
They taste like shoes.
Oh.
I smell feet.
I
smell feet.
You are crazy. You just ate that right off the floor.
Oh, I don't think that was a grape.
Oh, boy.
I don't think those are grape nuts.
That is beyond the 3-second rule. Way beyond.
He looks a little repulsed at first because it tastes like shoes, but the real gross out factor comes when he realizes what the food really is.
Those were not grape nuts that I ate.
Ugh.
I kept finding more and more of it on the floor, and I thought it was grape nuts because it looked just like it. My cat threw up, and I must have stepped in it. And that's what I ate.
Disgusting.
I thought it was grape nuts. I ate cat vomit.
Live on TV, he's gone and eaten a handful of cat vomit that stuck to the bottom of his shoe, and later lets everyone know. It must have been a slow news day.
It's disgusting. It's on the bottom of my shoe, and I thought it was grape nuts, and it's cat vomit. I'm gonna throw up. Alessa, that's what's trending now, Irene. I'm sick.
Rare Boston thunder snow. Those of you who have the pleasure of living down south on the eastern shore know quite well who Jim Cantor is. Infamous for his meteorological reporting of massive storms, the story goes, if you see Jim Cantor reporting from near you, you need to get out fast. However, it's not all hurricanes that Jim reports on. This snowstorm in Boston was incredible for different reasons, and incredible weather is what brings out Jim Cantor.
Oh my goodness!
He makes his way onto the screen and there's a flash of lightning. He's quickly floored by the sudden strike.
Oh yes! 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 We got it, baby! We got it! We got it! Woo!
It's rare because the temperature has to be a perfect mix to facilitate thunder. The whole moment is a flash, just like the lightning, but was forever immortalized on live TV.
Again! Again! That's a twofer! That's a twofer, baby! Yes!
Newscaster nearly hit by lightning live. Even wilder than snow lightning is the chances of being hit or even nearly hit by lightning while you're at work. It's definitely more likely for a meteorologist to do that, but even then that's going to be slim to none.
And where we are, this was not covered with water 30 seconds ago. Now you got a whole inch of water, so that's how fast the standing water can happen.
In between takes, this Arizona Fox affiliate caught a shot of an incredible moment. The newscaster quickly scurries off to safety, which is exactly the best course of action when a lightning strikes down less than a quarter of a mile away. TV reporter quits on air to advocate for medical marijuana. When you believe in something, you want to be able to say you stood up for what you believed in. Charlo Green of KTVA, an Alaskan CBS affiliate, put her money where her mouth was, live on TV. She reveals that she was the founder of the Alaskan Cannabis Club and has decided to quit her job as an anchor to dedicate her full attention to her efforts and belief that access to marijuana should be granted to state citizens.
I, the actual owner of the Alaskan Cannabis Club, will be dedicating all of my energy toward fighting for freedom and fairness, which begins with legalizing marijuana here in Alaska.
She does so, however, in an incredibly showy way.
And as for this job, well, not that I have a choice, but fuck it, I quit.
The other anchor is left speechless as her co-worker leaves her without words or a plan.
We'll be right back.
A simple "F it, I quit," and she walks off stage. Talk about sending a message. Ghost sightings on live news broadcast. Ghost encounters are seemingly more common than you'd expect. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment that's hard to call out.
Behind me here, we have a few gravestones, but what you can't see because it's dark out.
While the newscaster continues on about her story, describing the scene, behind her a ghostly figure crosses the screen. She doesn't react to it, but there's definitely something there. It's a graveyard. Would that really be the craziest place? BBC News gets hacked live on air. Being alive comes with a lot of opportunities for things to go wrong. This 2016 BBC News broadcast shows one possible scenario. The international news organization was hacked mid-broadcast by an unknown source.
Unfortunately, for the last few minutes, we've had to... Some real computer problems and technical problems.
Coming up.
They continuously cut out, emergency alarms go off, the display cuts, and then a man in sunglasses looks at the camera. The whole thing feels off-putting and a little scary before they finally regain control. The clip is short and sweet, but certainly not what you want to see when you're looking for news.
Hello, I'm David Eads with BBC World News. Our top stories.
The fatal Twilight Zone accident, 1982. Studios go to great lengths to bring their vision to life on the screen, be it movies or TV. Without barriers and safety nets, this whole process can potentially come, well, crashing down. The Twilight Zone accident is one such instance, where something meant to be incredible simply became a tragedy.
A freak accident turns a war movie set into real-life disaster, killing veteran actor Vic Morrow.
It was July 23rd of 1982, and they were filming the Twilight Zone movie, an anthology film produced by John Landis and Steven Spielberg. In one of the stories, Vic Morrow, playing Bill Connor, was transported back in time to the Vietnam War, protecting 2 children from American troops as a Vietnamese man. The 2 children hired, Renee Shin Yi Chen and Micah Dean Lay, were 2 hired illegally without required permits. Everything was paid under the table to better circumvent state law that wouldn't allow the 6- and 7-year-olds to work at night. Unfortunately, it was also never stated that the children would be working near explosives or an active helicopter. Fire safety officers, as well as firefighters on set and agents involved in the casting, were also not told about the children's presence on set. Everyone was, literally, in the dark.
In California, they were filming a war movie today when suddenly a helicopter carrying a camera crew crashed right in the middle of the action, killing actor Vic Morrow and 2 young children in the scene.
The clip is just under a minute and involves the actor, Vic Morrow, who at the time was carrying both children. Numerous cameras caught multiple angles of the ultimate moment, where the helicopter goes down directly into the actors on set.
The helicopter crashed just before 2:30 a.m., but obtaining close-up pictures of the scene has been difficult.
The explosions were detonated at the wrong time. The director directed the pilot to get much lower suddenly rather than pulling out. This caused the helicopter to spin out of control when the rotor failed and detached from the tail. The low-flying helicopter spun out right into the man and 2 children who had previously fallen into the water due to the slippery nature of the scene. All 3 actors, Vic and the 2 children, were killed instantly by the crash. In truth, it was not one pinpointed mistake, but a long line of them, one that truly marks a dark scene in Hollywood history.
And as you watch it over and over again, you become desensitized to it, for good and for ill, I think. I mean, you tend to forget that they're really human beings there, so that's bad. On the other hand, to analyze it as a technical and why it happened, you have to be desensitized to it. And after a while, you looked at it as just a technical thing where we were looking at what caused the accident.
Contestant on dating show A Serial Killer, 1979. Sometimes you get a peek behind the curtain. You get an idea of how people think and how they work. What better way to put yourself on full display than through a dating show? When people are trying to sell themselves, to find love, or meet the one, they get the very best version of themselves.
And welcome to the dating game, and we'll get right underway. It's time to meet our first 3 eligible bachelors for game number 1, and here they are.
The dating game is a panel-style show where 3 eligible bachelors are introduced to and asked a series of questions by a potential suitor.
Here is a young lady with a wealth of experience. She once earned a living massaging feet, but she quit when her boss suggested that she work her way up. Then she taught school in Phoenix, Arizona, and now she's here to educate our 3 bachelors in the art of amour. Welcome, if you will, sensational Cheryl Bradshaw. Hello, Cheryl.
But this wasn't just any dating game. This was the one where Rodney James Alsala was a contestant.
Well, let's see. Bachelor number 1 is a successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the dark room at the age of 13, fully developed. Between takes, he might find him skydiving or motorcycling. Please welcome Rodney Alcala. Rod, welcome.
Simply introduced as a photographer, a skydiver, and a bachelor, it vastly undersells who the man in the clip truly was. What they didn't know at the time, and couldn't know yet, was that Rodney was more than just a photographer. He was a prolific serial killer, whose true numbers are still largely unknown. While he was only conclusively linked to 8 murders, the numbers could have been as high as 130 different victims. At the height of his career, he came on the dating game simply looking for love, or so his responses might have you believe. He's been compared many times to Ted Bundy, and it's hard not to see why. He's a charmer on television, good-looking, and friendly. When Cheryl Bradshaw begins to question her bachelor from behind a wall, she starts with Rodney, who flirts up a storm, getting plenty of laughs and applause from the contestant and the audience alike. It's chilling to imagine that someone charming and charismatic like that could hide such a killer secret, all while flaunting it all over television at the same time. Survivor contestant falls in fire. Survivor as a TV show has been known to go off the rails from time to time. Personal injury, life-threatening events, and even off-site tragedies that need to be delivered. If you've ever seen the show, you've probably seen it all. They have staff on-site and backup plans to make sure to mitigate the risks and keep people safe, but what if things really go awry? When no one can see it coming? Michael Skupin ended his Survivor run in 11th place during Season 2 due to a sudden medical evacuation. He had taken to his tribe easily, becoming a de facto leader and provider, catching pig and fish to feed the group. His run had been extremely successful until one day it all came crashing down. While tending to the campfire, Skupin accidentally inhaled enough of the fumes to pass out directly into the fire. The audience catches him in this moment as he lets out a feral scream, running into the water with burned hands.
You okay?
Oh my God!
He's burnt pretty bad, Terry.
Here's the water.
What happened?
This is when everyone begins to scramble, unsure of how to help or what they could even do.
Do you want me to come in with you, Blake? Is that with you?
You passed out? I was blowing on the fire and the smoke was right in my face, and I inhaled it. And I passed out. Look at these things.
The medical team then tends to Michael's numerous wounds, moving him gingerly into the tent. Everyone's noticeably terrified for him. Survivor at this point was so new that this had never actually happened.
I love you guys! Where's my drive? Calm down.
Michael needed to be airlifted off premise due to the nature of his wounds, and the team rallied around him, offering support and well wishes. Skupin was not able to finish his run on Survivors as his injuries were much too severe. And viewers nationwide were suddenly very aware that this was much more real than anyone expected.
Seriously, this is right here.
I'm right here.
I'm looking at some brave, beautiful people who I just have grown to love so much.
It's all good, Mike. Don't even worry about it. Okay.
I just want to lock eyes with my boys and girls.